week the government for giving the Taliban U.S. tax dollars. Adam Andrzejewski is the president and CEO of OpenTheBooks.com, and he joins us this morning. Great to see you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jan.
President Biden and his administration still receiving a lot of criticism after the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. So aside from this $3.5 billion, now we're learning exactly what we suspected would happen with the humanitarian aid already given. The Taliban is getting U.S. taxpayer dollars. How much, Adam?
So kudos to U.S. Senator Joni Ernst for leading the charge this week with the Biden administration. The Biden administration had laid out plans through the U.S. Treasury to open up the U.S. taxpayer dollar spigot back into Afghanistan. And Jan, think about this. Over the course of the last 20 years, U.S. taxpayers put nearly $2 trillion into Afghanistan. To secure the country over that 2-decade period, we experienced in our military 22,000 casualties, and we lost 2,400 of our men and women, our fighting soldiers. And so we run the risk of funding the world's most dangerous foreign terrorist organization if we open up the U.S. taxpayer spigot through the Department of Treasury.
Yeah, speaking of Joni Ernst, Senator from Iowa there, she and some of her Senate colleagues did send a letter to Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, sharing their concerns about the process that's being used right now to give humanitarian aid. Let's take a look at that letter right here. She wrote, "While we agree widespread famine and denial of rights to Afghan women and girls are immediate problems to address with humanitarian aid and assistance, OFAC's sweeping authorization risks too much U.S. taxpayer money flowing through the Taliban or the Haqqani network to fund an excessive, ill-fated, or wasteful list of services." What else have lawmakers learned about this, Adam? This is a little bit frightening here.
So I think U.S. Senator Ernst put the Biden administration on notice, and they pivoted on their policy rather than using taxpayer dollars to lead on the humanitarian aid, which quite evidently can be stolen in Afghanistan. That's our experience. They are going to lead with the frozen assets of the Taliban first. Now, that's a better policy. But we always have to keep in mind that if we're going to use U.S. taxpayer money and these licenses over at Treasury, that's still going forward. If we're going to use taxpayer money, there has to be two things in place. It has to serve people who have real needs, and we need an audit trail. When we secured the country over 20 years, we didn't even have those things in place. I want to give you two quick examples. Drones. $174 million worth of drones were stolen in Afghanistan, yet we continued to appropriate tens of millions of dollars worth of drones back into Afghanistan after that. We spent $10 billion on an anti-narcotics campaign in Afghanistan, and even the UN said there was no measurable results that Afghanistan was a narco state. So our history, unless we learn from our history, we're going to repeat it. If we're using taxpayer money in Afghanistan, it's going to be stolen.
Is there any way, Adam, though, to really keep track of these taxpayer dollars that are being spent on Afghanistan? Is there any way for the Taliban and the U.S. to really come together and track something like this?
Well, the experience of history, that has not been the case. Yeah. Now, in terms of U.S. taxpayer dollars, Senator Ernst's letter also wanted to get to the bottom of whether we've been already funding Afghanistan since August. And so the Biden administration owes her that figure.
And according to Open the Books, general licenses are still being issued by the administration. Very quickly, what other types of programs are taxpayers funding?
So in addition to the humanitarian aid, the U.S. Treasury, through these licenses, would give money to Afghanistan to preserve endangered species, to help with the rule of law, and to help with education. Now, while we were in Afghanistan, data at OpenTheBooks.com shows that we had already pumped hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money into the rule of law and into election campaigns. And obviously, there was nothing sustainable built with those dollars. On education, we ran $1 billion PR marketing campaign to try to teach the Taliban to respect women, and I think that was an abject failure.
I think most people would agree with that, Adam. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jan.